I'm gonna get negative because I just feel like it's disingenuous for me to just talk positively about
Sure, yeah.
everybody.
Let's get into the nitty-gritty, baby. This is
We
our bread
have
and
a
butter.
yeah, we have a kind of a tendency to do the thing of like looking at all of these picks and going, that's a star, that's a star. Wow, they hit, and most of these guys aren't gonna hit. So, what are a couple early picks that you're looking at? And just give me a couple off the rip, off top if you can, of guys that you're just kind of not feeling that other people are either excited about or gassing up, and you just don't have the same view.
I very much dislike Roma Dunze. Um, and I don't.
It's not just because he's a bear,
It's
right?
not just because he's a bear. It's not just because he's a bear.
Promise?
I promise. It doesn't help that he's a bear. It doesn't help.
No,
If
it
he wasn't,
doesn't.
and I'll say this. This is
Yeah,
this is just
yeah.
me being totally honest. If he wasn't a bear, I don't do the research that I did on him because, granted, I'm gonna play him twice. He's gonna be in
You
my
put money in the
division.
streets like Drake did?
Yeah, fully. I put money in the street.
Yeah.
I put instead of 100,000, I put 100 pennies, and I said, "All right, let's go. I need
Into the
intel."
slot
But
and the
no, I just keep
yeah.
seeing like, "Oh, he's so good. He's gonna be so good. He's gonna be so good," and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. You know, it touches on everything that you've just touched on, right? It's like it's situation. Like I don't love the situation. You're going in there as wide receiver 3. So how many
Mhm.
touches are you really gonna get? You know, how many catches are you can Caleb really spread that ball around without it being an issue? You know, and maybe the answer is yes, but having to share your rookie year with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore, like you said, I think Keenan Allen's like he's about done. Like the car's warming up currently. I think
Yeah.
DJ Moore's time is absolutely now. I think he's entering that 2 to 3 year window where he's going to be, you know, a borderline top 10 guy, if not like a certified top 10 guy, depending on how good Caleb is. So
Yep.
I feel like
Yep.
that leaves Odunze a little bit in the dust, unless he can stand out above those two, which is what my fear was, right? It's like, oh God, like man, if Odunze is like as good as they're saying he is, like this offense might really be it. So what I did was I went and
Mhm.
I watched Washington against Oregon last year. And you know, Christian Gonzalez was a very highly regarded cornerback. He looked pretty good in his first couple of games, but then he got injured, so we didn't really see like what he was for real. You know, like
He did look good
he
before
looked
the
really
injury,
good.
though,
He
for the
looked
record.
really good,
Yes.
but he also
Yeah.
had the best defensive mind at his head ever as his head coach. So like you're coming off
Yep.
of injury and you don't have Bill Belichick anymore. So that might get lost in the sauce, right? That might be like, oh,
Mhm.
he looked so good, but he was a Bill Belichick merchant. It's like, yeah, maybe. I don't really know. It's hard to say. We didn't get a whole season of
Sure.
him. We don't know what it is. He
Sure.
had that man
Yep.
in Alcatraz, bro. He had that man
Mhm.
locked the fuck in. Like it was crazy.
So
He had
interesting.
him and
Yeah.
then I'm like, and so then my mind goes, all right, well, again, Christian Gonzalez is we think a high-end NFL cornerback. So I mean, he's going to have a lot
Yeah.
of people locked down, especially and it's Romo Dunze last year. It's not him this year. So you know, maybe he grew up a little bit. He got a little better here, a little better there, whatever. So then I go and I watch every rep that happened in the Michigan game because you know that's the only Romo Dunze game that I watched last year, like start to finish, right? Like, frankly,
Okay. I watched a couple. Yeah.
I'm not watching Michigan State go out there and pull their pants down for fucking Washington. So the only game I watched
They
was
did.
100% they did. So I'm not doing that personally.
Yeah.
I went back and I
No, I got you.
watched shout out bro on YouTube. I can't remember I subscribed though, but he chopped up every single Odunze target this year. It was like a 25-minute video. And you know,
Mm.
you're watching these videos. I'm watching this whole video and I'm like, damn, like he does look good. He looks really good. And he looked really good against some teams that were absolute fucking dog shit on defense. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
some teams that
Yep.
like just are not ever known for defense. I think USC most notably, Michigan State just mentioned like he had a great game against them. He had a great game against USC. He had a great game against there was somebody else that he had a great game against that it was like none of these teams are like defensive powerhouses. Like these are all the teams that we always joke
Mm-mm.
about and we're like this is why Caleb Williams is like throwing fucking 16 touchdowns a game because he's like they're playing these defenses that are just like an absolute joke. Um
Yeah. Yeah.
and he didn't like
And they were powerhouse
their
offense too.
powerhouse
Powerhouse offense.
offense.
Great
And I
quarterback, and they were
go
3 deep at
three
receiver.
deep, bro. There was
Yeah.
twice.
It's
There
important.
was twice that he got open against Michigan, and both times was because of blown safety plays. And one of them, Michael Penix overthrew very notably. It was like a big moment in the game, and Odunze kind of like jumped for it, missed it. It was kind of like one of those moments where it's like, oh, this game's over.
Yeah.
There was another one
Yeah.
where he had a big reception, but at the same time, Will Johnson pushes him off onto the safety. The safety's absolutely not in the right position, and Roman Dunze is completely wide open. Everything else was
Sure.
very like it was a lot of like hook routes. It was a lot of like kind of darts up the middle, but it was nothing that was standing out to me. And every time that he lined up one on one against Will Johnson had that man in hell. And
Yeah.
again, Will Johnson is probably going to be a top 10 draft pick next year, barring, any injury or anything like that. He's very good
But that's what
cornerback.
you're gonna be playing as a
But
one receiver. As a number 1
that's
receiver, that's what
exactly
you're
my point.
seeing.
And I think that his burst,
Yeah,
I
and
think
don't give me coaching either with the Michigan game because that was a situation of great defensive coaching. I mean, our defensive
Jesse Minter
coaches for U
is
of M in the
literally the
national
Chargers
championship.
DC now. You know what I mean? Like,
But that's my point. Like you're going to be going up against great
yep,
schemes. You're going to be going up against great corners. What makes you a star
yeah,
is your
I
ability
totally
to
agree.
take over a game despite that.
And his
And the real ones in the league can do that.
he's the
CD can
and
do
the
that.
thing
Jefferson can do that.
totally agree. And I
Yeah.
think the thing that's he's gonna struggle with the most in the NFL is his explosion off of the line of scrimmage is not there. It's just not there.
Right.
And
Right.
he is a hell of a ball hawk, and he's got great hands. So if he can get
Yes, he
open,
does.
I mean, hell, the sky's the limit. The problem is I don't see him creating any type of separation or getting off the line of scrimmage quickly. And you're not going to do
Mhm.
that against, you're not going to do that against Jair Alexander. You're not going to do that against, hopefully, fingers crossed, Terrion Arnold. But you're definitely not going to do it against Carlton Davis. You're not going to do it against, I don't even know who the Vikings have in their cornerback room. I'm sure they have somebody good, but you're going to see those guys.
Kind of weak right now at
It's a
corner.
little, it's a little lackluster. But
Yeah.
you're going to
A
see
little sus for you
you're
guys.
going to see those
Yeah.
guys twice a year, no matter what. And then, on top
Right.
of your other schedule, I mean, you got to see San Francisco, you got to see Dallas, you got to see, Seattle, you got to see these teams, and
Yeah.
and I just I don't know, I don't hope I'm wrong because fuck the Bears, but for the kids'
Yeah.
sake, I mean, he seems
I
like
would love for you to be right.
he
I
seems
would
like a
love for
good
you to be
kid
right.
though. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I watch his
He does.
interviews and
He
I'm
does.
like, I kind of want to root for this guy. Like I hate that he went to the Bears. I really wish like the Falcons would have taken him or like he would have dropped to the Jets would have been awesome. I would be like his biggest fan. But again, and it comes back to what I said at the beginning about these quarterbacks. Not everybody can hit, man. Not everybody can hit.
Yeah.
I mean, we never
Yeah.
look at a draft and say, oh, everybody hit. You know what I mean? I mean,
No, I totally agree with you.
2022, we look at, I think objectively speaking, Garrett Wilson hit, but like Chris Olave is like, he's left a lot to be desired. He's pretty good. He's like a high end 2, but you drafted him to be a 1.
Situation.
Jamison Williams has been an absolute disappointment so far, and that's coming from a
Yeah.
diehard Lion, like he's just has been.
Drake London situation.
Jake, 100%. He's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
and the hit rate on wide receivers is higher, but again, it can't be 100%. It never is. We never see it be 100%. So you tell me who's
Yeah.
who's more likely to fail?
No,
Is it going to
great.
be
Yeah.
Marvin
I'm
Harrison
glad.
Jr., Malik Neighbors, or
Yeah.
Roma Dunze? You tell me, because I'm taking the first two.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny that it ended up being a first round wide receiver again for you because my version of this like are also first round wide
of
receivers.
course, always is.
I have
isn't
2
it?
guys. I'm gonna pair them almost to give like contrasting reasons as to why these guys are. And I'm not gonna like dissect them.
Sure.
I think it's more interesting to dissect Odunze because he's being talked about as a star.
Yeah.
These guys aren't quite being talked about at star level, but they're first round receivers. So it's interesting. My 2 guys are Xavier Worthy in
Mhm.
Kansas City and Ricky Parasol in San Francisco. And it's opposite reasons
Sure.
that I don't like the pick. So with Xavier Worthy, I just don't like his game on an NFL level. I think he's small. I don't think he catches contested passes well at all. I watched a lot of Texas. Like I've already shouted out Austin a bunch because it was so much fun going down there. But I did go see them play last year. I think he was absolutely the two behind Adonai Mitchell
Yeah.
last year, 100%. He looks like a speed merchant to me. It's giving Darius Hayward Bay. It's giving John
Yeah.
Ross. It's
Yes,
giving
it
that
is.
type of.
Yes, it
It
is.
just is,
Yeah.
and you can. And this isn't me like talking trash. Like his highlights are dope. Like I'm not knocking the guy like he's not
Hmm.
talented. And if it's going to work, it's going to work in Kansas City. For me, I look at even the landing spot and I view his game as a similar issue that Kansas City had last year. They had speed. What
Hmm.
they didn't have enough of was sure-handed, complete wide receivers.
Yeah.
Um, and now you
Boy, we're
have Rasheed
nitpicking, aren't
Rice,
we?
who you
I
said
said,
what?
boy, we're nitpicking, aren't we?
What do you
What the
mean?
Chiefs didn't have. They
Oh
got a
yeah, yeah,
Super
yeah.
Bowl
But
ring. No,
I
I
mean,
know. I
hey,
know.
listen,
Right?
man, the Chiefs are
No,
amazing.
I know.
But I
I'm
will
talking.
say, like, you're trying to any offseason, you're trying to.
Yeah.
You listen.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna
And
shade the
boys back
Chiefs,
to
but they
back.
had a difficult regular
Yeah.
season,
No, they did.
and a main reason they did was because they had perimeter speed. They had Tony. They had Valdez Scantling. They had these guys who can make plays, but they weren't. It's almost like pouring more salt on the wound, I think, of like what their issue was at wide receiver. Now I love Hollywood Brown. We'll see if Rasheed Rice can,
Yeah.
hopefully his lawyer doesn't show up in baggy pants and he can figure it
Sure.
out. He's got a good lawyer, right? But my other guy, to wrap it up on Worthy, I don't love I don't love his game at an NFL level as a complete wide receiver, and it's just not close to me on like some of these other guys.
Yeah.
I just see speed. That's it.
Yeah. And
And
well,
with the other
doesn't
guy,
it feel, just
yeah,
before you move off that real fast, doesn't it
no,
feel
no
like
problem.
they're trying to replace Kadarius Toney with Kadarius Toney?
Yes,
You know
that's
what I
what I'm
mean? Like
saying. It's MVS.
yeah.
Who was that guy they had before? Mecole
Mecole
Hardman. It's got a
Hardman.
lot
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah.
It's like I wanted you guys to get a real one
Yeah.
receiver
It's
in
like
here.
Andy
This
Reid
guy's
can't
not that,
it's like
dude. He's
Andy
just
Reid can't
not.
help himself. He's just like, fuck yeah, dude. Like
He can't. He
these
can't. He can't.
little fast guys are just so it. It's like, dude, you had Tyreek Hill. You
Yeah.
got rid of him.
Yeah.
Why did you
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah.
If you're
And
gonna try to replace him
yeah.
every year, you know, like
Yeah. And no, it's so true. And I would say my other guy is sort of the opposite, and it would be Ricky Parasol.
sure.
I really like Ricky Parasol's game, and he was kind of like going into the draft, one of the players that I was like really interested in seeing,
Sure.
like where he went,
Where he
because
ended
everyone
up.
talked
Yeah.
about like Ladd McConkey as
Yeah.
like a white wide receiver, and he's like
Sure.
so good, and I was like, I mean, you know me, I was doing like receiver evaluations, and I was kind of like, Parasol looks like more of an NFL player than
Sure.
McConkey does. Like he's got like a real style and a
Yeah.
juice and a touch to his game that like
Yes.
I don't see as much with McConkey. But I don't understand why San Francisco drafted him.
It makes no
Like
sense. Not
he's
now.
gonna be,
It made sense if we
yeah,
saw
he's
the
gonna
day
be
two Brandon Ayuk or
the trade.
Debo Samuel trade. Now it just seems like
But but
he's got the same problem
yeah,
Odunze has, right? Like, is it not the
but
same?
yeah, but it's worse actually because John Lynch just came out and said we're not planning on trading Ayuk or Debo. So now you have your one receiver, Debo or Ayuk, right? You have those two guys as your 1-2.
Mm-hmm.
You still have Jawan Jennings on the roster, who a lot of people consider to be a very, very good three. He's very underrated. You still have Ronnie Bell, who showed flashes last year, and you still have George Kittle and Christian
That's
McCaffrey.
a
So
lot of mouths to
where
feed,
does this
man.
guy fit on
Yeah.
this offense? Like I
Yeah, I don't
don't
know.
understand. I just would have liked to see him go to a team that maybe has the ability for him to be a 2 or at least a 3.
Yeah.
I don't. He's gonna have to be a superstar in camp to even see the field next year, let alone get targets. Like he might
Yeah.
not play.
No.
Honestly.
Yeah,
He's gonna be ahead of Ronnie Bell. Are you sure? Is he gonna be ahead of Juwan Jennings?
John Lynch is
No.
interesting because he really like nails it in like rounds like 2 through 7, but it seems like round 1 is always his biggest struggle. And
Does he nail it, or does Adam Peters nail it? And Adam Peters is in
we
Washington
will
now.
find out, won't we? We will
Yes, we
definitely
will.
find
Tune in
out.
next
Yeah,
week.
that's facts. No, that's facts.
um,
Yeah.
Yeah, we no, I think that's a really interesting that's a really really interesting point on on sort of like guys that we think are good players but maybe
Yeah.
we don't love like their games or like where they went.
Yeah.
Um